Hey there, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the THW NHL News and Rumors Rundown. My name is Jim Parsons. I'm here with thehockeyraiders.com. Happy Halloween weekend, everybody. We hope you guys have a safe and warm Halloween, that you don't eat too much candy all at the same time. Enjoy the weekend with friends and family. Whatever you got going on, we hope you guys have a blast. All right, we got tons to go through in terms of the NHL news and rumors. Quick reminder before we get into that, though, you can follow us in a few different ways. One, you can go to thehockeyraiders.com. Two, you can go to Twitter and follow us at the Hockey Raider. 3, facebook.com/hockeyraiders, or you can go to the YouTube page. Check us out there. We've got all sorts of video and content about your favorite teams. All right, let's get into the big stories of the week. Obviously, Chicago Blackhawks is the big story that everybody's been talking about and following. Kyle Beach, an emotional Kyle Beach, a courageous Kyle Beach, he came forward and talked about the allegations and the abuse that he suffered in 2010 at the hands of former Chicago Blackhawks video coach Brad Ulrich. This was a really, really tough, emotional interview with Rick Westhead of SportsCenter. Kyle Beach talked about how the Chicago Blackhawks failed him, the NHL failed him, the NHLPA failed him, but he was mostly concerned with the fact that he felt so alone and didn't feel that he could come forward, which he feels he's responsible in part for future allegations, future abuse that Aldrich did to other people. And that was really, really the hardest part about this whole thing. Obviously, we feel terrible for Kyle Beach, but that he feels that way about what happened, even though this was not his fault, certainly is troubling. So the NHL has done a lot here in the past week. First things first, obviously Stan Bowman, the GM of the Chicago Blackhawks, has stepped down. He's no longer the GM in Chicago. They felt that this was just not the right thing to continue doing. He's now no longer the GM for the Team USA, the Olympic team either, so he's just going to be removed completely. It didn't stop there, though. Joel Quenville is no longer the Florida Panthers head coach. He was the coach in Chicago at that time. And there were reports that he knew about the allegations, even though he said in a previous interview that he did not know anything. Kyle Beach said, look, I know of meetings that happened in his office. There's no way that Quenville didn't know. It appears that way, that he lied about this, and so it was found out that Quenville is partially responsible for the fact that this was not revealed to the NHL, this was not revealed to other people, and that he was more concerned with the way that the Chicago Blackhawks were playing in the playoffs in that year and winning another championship. So he's no longer the coach in Florida. Kevin Cheveldayoff, who was an assistant in Chicago at that time, he also had a meeting with Gary Bettman. Not like Quenville, though. Cheveldayoff is not going to receive any punishment from the NHL. It has been determined that he was not in a leadership role. He was not an influencer on that team. So even if he were to know about it, he wasn't necessarily in a position to do anything about it. This isn't sitting well with everybody, obviously, but Cheveldayoff has escaped punishment from the NHL. He will stay and remain the GM of the Winnipeg Jets. Now, we can assume that Kevin Cheveldayoff not being punished in any way means the players, who some people are saying, Jonathan Toews, Patrick Kane, Duncan Keith, anybody involved in that team at that time should have to answer for this. They clearly won't. This is not a situation where if Cheveldayoff was an assistant GM at that time and didn't say anything, the players, whether they knew or not saying anything, is not going to come down on them. So we'll see if there's any more fallout from this. There's obviously lots of talk about what's going to happen here, but we'll keep our eyes on the situation and report that on the Hockey Raiders if we have any more news. All right, switching gears a little bit, Jack Eichel remains one of the hottest trade topics in the NHL, but hot and cold is the way Darren Dreger describes it from TSN. In some situations, there's lots of talk surrounding Eichel, maybe that he gets moved to Las Vegas. In other situations, the talk rate has cooled down, and there's nothing happening on that front. Vegas is the leader in the rumor mill at this point. Anaheim Ducks, Calgary Flames are still in conversation. Kevin Weeks says Calgary's in there, but other reports are suggesting that they're not interested in blowing up their team because they're playing so well right now. Jacob Silverberg was removed from the Anaheim Ducks roster recently. Some are suggesting this might have to do with the Jack Eichel trade. Others are saying no, this is just a total coincidence, even though Anaheim is one of the teams that has been kicking tires on Jack Eichel. Vegas remains the team, the front runner here, that would probably be interested in Eichel. It sounds like they've done their due diligence on his injury, are okay with trading for him and letting him get the surgery that he wants, but there are salary cap implications here. Mark Stone, obviously the key to all of this. If he's out long term, then maybe the Vegas Golden Knights have some room. But we'll see where all of this goes. It may go nowhere. Michael may be staying in Buffalo for a little while. All right, let's talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs for a second. Morgan Rielly signed an 8-year deal, $60 million. Pretty good deal for the Toronto Maple Leafs, $7.5 million, a lot less than some of the big ticket free agents that were signed as defensemen this offseason. That said, it's still troubling for the Toronto Maple Leafs in terms of their goaltending situation. Well, they've solved their blue line issue with Morgan Rielly a little bit. They've opened up a possible complication when it comes to Jack Campbell, who will be an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. He's going to get a major raise here. Peter Mrazek internally has probably set the floor for the Toronto Maple Leafs and what they're going to have to offer Campbell. They're hoping he's going to take a team-friendly deal. They're hoping he's going to continue to play well this season. But if he does, he might be looking for around $5 million, which the Maple Leafs can't really afford without making other changes. So we'll see where this goes. If anything has to be done, if other moves have to be made to keep Campbell on the roster, even if they were to try to find a replacement, should Campbell move in free agency, that's going to be expensive too. So the Toronto Maple Leafs are kind of hooked when it comes to their goaltending, but they'll figure it out. They usually do. Kyle Dubas is one of those guys that seems to maneuver with the salary cap pretty well. But Morgan Rielly signed for 8 more years. What happens with their goaltending now, we're not really sure. Finally, in Seattle, there's talk about Mark Giordano. GM Ron Francis has said that he is open to the idea of potentially moving Giordano at some point this season, but they're not anywhere close to making that decision yet. Giordano, obviously, when he was selected by the Seattle Kraken, really wanted to stay in Calgary. Calgary wanted to keep him. They just couldn't figure out a way to do it. There is talk that he might want to go back there. He's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. So Calgary would be one of the front runners to get him back. If they're playing well, maybe they want to trade for him at the deadline. You never really know. He could like it in Seattle too and might want to stay. That conversation will be had, but Seattle is not ruling out the idea that they might trade him at some point this season, even though he was just named their captain. Ron Francis is basically just keeping the doors open. He's like, we're not at a point where we're making this decision yet. We'll see where we're at later in the season. But just watch for that. Could be one of those moves that happens before the trade deadline. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this week. Got lots more to talk about next week. We hope you enjoy the regular season. We hope you have a fantastic Halloween weekend. We'll keep you up to speed at thehockeyraiders.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, wherever else you want to get your NHL news and rumors, but we'll keep you going on all of that. Fantastic. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Thanks a lot, and we'll talk to you next week.